Electricast.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we are talking with Drew Ann Long. A former stay-at-home mom with no background in engineering or manufacturing, Drew Ann's journey is one of remarkable grit and innovation. She navigated the complex world of product development, patents, brand building, and production, ultimately launching and leading a nationwide grassroots movement that challenged retailers to think differently about inclusion. Her story has been featured on Today, CNN, Inside Edition, and CBS News. And she has earned recognition from Walmart, Target, Michelle Obama, and advocacy groups across the U.S. Now an inspirational speaker and founder of her nonprofit, Caroline's Cause, Drew Ann brings her story to the stage to empower and challenge audiences to lead with empathy, persevere through adversity, and prioritize inclusion in everyday life and business. Drew Ann, I am excited to welcome you to the show today, so welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
This will be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, yes. So we're recently connected. I actually met you through your assistant, Jasmine, who reached out to me after listening to one of my guest episodes. And she told me about you. And it was actually perfect timing because at that time I had been in the midst of sourcing guests for now season 4, in particular for this series that I have called Women of Grace, which is all about women who have incredible stories to share. It's about showcasing women like yourself who embody incredible strength, grace and faith and compassion for other people and who are making such an incredible impact in what they're doing today. And so when we met on our coffee chat, I really felt that good energy from you. And I truly felt that you would be an incredible addition for the show, especially for this series. And again, it's because it is for Women's Empowerment Month of March. And so here we are today. So thank you for saying yes to being on the show.
Awesome. Yay!
Yeah. Well, I want to begin with your daughter, Caroline, because becoming her mom clearly shaped everything that followed. So can you take us back to the moment when you realized that traditional shopping spaces weren't built with her in mind, what that experience stirred in you as a mother, and which experience shaped what would become Caroline's Cart?
Sure. So Caroline was born severely disabled. She's my middle child. She doesn't walk. She doesn't talk. She's relatively high functioning in the sense that she's aware of what's going on. So, she taught me a lot and I had to learn how to be a special needs mom. It doesn't come with any directions and, every day was a challenge. And just being out in the community taught me so much that, places that aren't accessible. And one place that I was at frequently, 3 times a week at least, minimum, with 3 kids, was the grocery store. So when Caroline was younger, I would carry her in on my hip and put her in the carts that they provided. When she was around 8 years old, she outgrew everything. I mean, I would literally carry her in, an 8-year-old and put her in the fun carts. So when she outgrew everything, I really thought that there probably was an option, and I talked to my manager about it, and he said that he had never heard of such a cart. And that was my moment. That was the genesis of my business of, wow, how can retailers exclude the world's largest minority group? They provide a variety of carts for different ages. They have almost one for two toddlers. They have electric scooters, but there was a huge gap. It was just never brought to anyone's attention, or if it was, they never did it. So, of course, I'm not the only mom that needed it. I'm like, this is a global unmet need, and that really stirred something in me right then and there.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that especially there's something so powerful about an idea born from love that turns into responsibility that I would really love to talk about because what it actually took for you to move from that sketching stage because I know you first of all you're like okay you're serious there's nothing out here that actually supports this community so now you're going in and you're figuring out like what that could look like so you entered engineering, you've been in manufacturing, patents, and national retail negotiations without any prior experience, which I think this is something that blows my mind when I read that about you. And that would intimidate most people. In fact, it could be intimidating, just for anything at all. So what did that perseverance for you actually look like in the early stages of bringing Caroline's cart to life?
Well, I mean, it's terrifying. I mean, I knew nothing. I have a business degree, worked in accounting, when I worked outside of the home. And I was very naive, and I think that got me far. And let me explain. Had I known what I was about to encounter, I would have never done it. But I don't know if that's just being a special needs mom and just knowing that, hey, okay, I'm going to tackle this. I don't know how to do it. Being a special needs mom, I have to figure this out. I have to figure out meds and feeding schedules and feeding tubes and all of it. So I was very naive thinking that it would be easy. And it's a good thing because had I known or seen the whole picture, I would have never done it. So you will hear me say often, and I don't know how else to say it, I had to figure it out. I was so determined to do this. Again, I was so naive thinking it wouldn't be that difficult, and it certainly couldn't take that long, that I just stayed laser focused on the end goal. And I thought, okay, if I'm going down a path that ends in failure or that doesn't, okay, that way didn't work. I'll figure out another way. So, yes, very intimidating. I took one day at a time. And yeah, again, I'm glad I didn't have the whole picture in front of me.
Yeah, well, I have a follow-up to that. Was there a specific moment that you can think back on that maybe almost made you stop and what carried you through that?
Sure, we rent. I was a stay-at-home mom. My husband traveled for a living. We had a very small savings, not much. Yeah, when that very first prototype, I had no idea what a prototype cost. Took me a year to find somebody to make it. And the first prototype wiped out our savings. It was $28,000. And right then and there, I was like, oh, wow, we don't have the I had no I didn't wow. So financially, this was a burden. It was very hard. Again, being so naive, I'm like, okay, well, it probably won't cost much more than that. So let me back up and say that when I drew it on a napkin, I researched and found there's four shopping cart manufacturers in the United States. I reached out to all four of them, not wanting to do this on my own, but just saying, hey, this is your industry. Here's what you need to do. And all four of them shot me down. All four of them dismissed me quickly and were not interested. So even before the prototype, I was like, wow. It almost offended me and made me mad, for lack of a better word. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And you can't fault anybody for not knowing the special needs world. I knew nothing about it till I was placed in it. But they were just very quick to dismiss, and they were like, whatever. So, that gave me a lot of boldness to be like, okay, well, watch this. I'm going to figure this out on my own. I don't know how, but I think it's important that I think a lot of people think that I just drew it and gave it to the corporate America and it was all, rainbows and sunshine. No, it took me years and years because I had to figure it out on my own. So I think to answer your question, it was financially, I wanted to stop at every corner because every dime we had went into this cart.
Yeah, I love that you shared that story. You kind of like segued into my next question a little bit, but I really feel like because as I was saying earlier, like this series for me is very important, very special. And the reason why I chose to do Women of Grace was because I really wanted to showcase women who have life. Not that every woman doesn't have a life challenge, but I wanted to showcase this in a way that it's not just all empowerment, like all empowerment stories. It's about how through life's challenges, you were able to make something really powerful come to life. And that was really why I decided to do this specific series because I wanted to have women like yourself on here to talk about stories just like this. Again, you're right. It's an underserved community, and yet it's such a very wide, like, there's so many people who have visible physical disabilities that people don't recognize. They just kind of like, oh yeah. I mean, they look, but they don't see. If there's a
Sure.
way of like, it's like it's straight. It's like it's right in your face, but
Right,
it's like you don't notice it. And
right,
like you said, you didn't really know about this community well until you were placed within it. With the birth of your daughter, and then having to go through all of the things that you had to go through, and then to realize, okay, I need to be the one that makes that
right,
change,
right.
in order for it to happen, right?
Right, so obvious to me. And
Mhm.
then even when I went to social media and started putting my drawings out there and my prototype out there, so obvious to millions. But we had to change that culture. And this was something that never existed before. So you have to take on that risk and you have to build that demand to say, hey, yes, it's never been out there before, but it needs to be. And we will prove that through building a nationwide demand for this cart. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So I want to ask you, and I don't know if it's in the traditional sense for you, but how has faith played a part of this process for you? Whatever your faith is, because I really feel like we have to believe in something enough to keep us going, especially like you were saying, you had four manufacturing companies that you reached out to that really were not interested to help you. And you saw how much it was going to cost for you to even try to get this off the ground yourself. So,
Right.
how did faith help you in that? And how did it evolve through the process of building something that felt bigger than you?
I believe that this was God ordained from long before my existence. My husband and I we're Christians, we're believers. We believe in Jesus. And God gave me he put this on my heart and he gave me a burning desire to do this. It doesn't make any other sense. A stay at home mom of three little kids, a husband that travels, one's severely disabled. I didn't have time some days to take a shower, much less take on a project like this. So we prayed about it. And I told my husband, I said, I just cannot shake this. And my prayer and his prayer had become, Lord, remove this from us. Take away, just make it crisp. But that was the exact opposite. I mean, I was waking up at night and we had committed it to prayer for about 6 months. And I told my husband and he agreed. And I'm like, it's stronger than ever. This is what the Lord has called me to do. I am not, I have no experience. I mean, I might as well be building a space shuttle. I have no idea where to start, what to do. But I remember praying and saying, okay, Lord, if you will open the doors, I'll go through them. You're going to have to guide me because I don't have the time, the money, or the know-how to do this. So 100%, my husband and I depended on the Lord to get this to market.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a Christian as well, and I truly believe that everything comes for me comes from God, and I want him to be in my business. I don't want to just say strategically, you can be here and I'll do this
Absolutely.
myself, right? Like I want him to be a part of it all. So no, I love how, your faith has really been able to get you through, especially those challenging times. And I know Caroline's cart is now in retailers across all 50 states and it's worldwide in multiple countries, which I think is amazing, especially because it felt hard in the beginning. And, one of my mantras right now is that I can do hard things. I just say that, no matter what happens, no matter what life throws at me, I can do hard things. And as long as I have my faith and I have God, I know I can do those hard things. I'm not doing it alone. But I want to go beyond the product itself. What you built challenged retailers to really think differently about inclusion, right? So from your perspective, what shifts when businesses lead with empathy instead of convenience?
I think it opens up doors for them that they were not even aware were options for whatever business there is. There's a saying, you're never wrong to do the right thing. And I think that has a lot of depth to it. And again, this had never been done before. And we had to change a culture. I needed stores to take a chance on me. I needed the demand to grow, and we needed to prove the product. And I think, I'll tell you this, at least for the cart, there has never been backlash. There has never been retailers that were sorry they bought it. In fact, most retailers were like, well, we'll take a few. And inevitably, their order would grow and grow and grow until they did a nationwide rollout. So, yeah, I think businesses out there, I'm in the retail world, but whatever it is you're doing, I think you need to be open minded. And I think you need to always be inclusive, whether you're service oriented, whether you are business oriented, product oriented, there's never not room to be all inclusive to everyone. Never.
Yeah, I agree with you because I truly believe that unless you've walked in someone's shoes, you don't know what they've gone through. And I always believe that leading from that place, that empathy of allowing yourself to step into the shoes of another person, especially in the disabled world, because we don't know the challenges, not just the physical challenges, but the mental and emotional challenges that come with the physical challenges, right? How they feel. And like you said, your daughter cannot speak how she feels. She can only give you probably gestures. I'm
Okay.
sure you've gotten really good at understanding her that
Sure.
way because she's your child.
Right.
But from the outside world, someone who meets your daughter, if they don't have that empathy piece and then allowing for compassion to be a part of how they lead their life, they're not going to understand, and they could miss out on such an incredible
Right.
experience of meeting
Right.
someone and doing that, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I love that what you're doing is changing lives and it's changing perspectives and changing an industry that really needs to focus on being inclusive of everyone because everyone deserves that.
Right.
So your story has been featured nationally on Today, CNN, Inside Edition, CBS News. You've also earned recognition from Walmart, from Target, Michelle Obama, and advocacy groups across the US. So public advocacy obviously often comes with scrutiny, pressure, and responsibility. So how did you protect your emotional strength while you were advocating for something so deeply personal?
Goodness, that's a hard one. I mean, you don't think about it. Let me just say that. Again, I said earlier on I was laser focused, and there was not much I was not willing to do. You have to take every opportunity that comes, and that was hard as a mom of three littles, having to travel and having to go places. But again, advocacy. I'm living in the special needs community, the world's largest minority group. I am one of, those that support Caroline's cart. You don't have to be disabled. You just have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to make changes, be all inclusive. But advocacy work, yeah, it comes at a price sometimes because you have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to be bold. You have to have thick skin because it's not all positive. Comments always all the advocacy work is not always positive.
Yeah. One of the things I was wondering is if, like, for example, with you and, having to go through all of these things, was there anything that you did that helped you to stay grounded, especially when the spotlight intensified?
If my husband was here, he'd be like, "That was me. I kept her grounded." That's what my husband would say. He's not here right now. He's exercising. I think the Lord kept me grounded. People would say all the time, "Oh, it's getting huge." I said, "Let me just tell you something. I have a 25-year-old and I change diapers. I mean, I stay grounded. I still have a baby. Caroline never grew up. So I think when you are a mom of a severely disabled child, you live in the moment and you do stay humble and grounded because, life can change on a dime. Just recently, she's got a cough, and I told David, I'm like, we could be in the hospital in a week. We know where this goes. So, yeah, I asked the Lord and my husband to keep me grounded in all things, and especially my sweet Caroline.
Yeah. Well, in addition to Caroline's Cart, you also founded Caroline's Cause, which extends the mission further. So, can you share with us what inspired you to launch the nonprofit and how it reflects the deeper heart behind your work?
Sure. So we wanted to give back to the special needs community that helped us get the cart off the ground. I say, yes, the cart was my idea. It was my money and my time. But without social media and without being able to build that community of families that had my back and were out in their states showing pictures and asking their retailer for it, Caroline's Cart would have never happened. One person in this situation, I couldn't have done it by myself. So we wanted to give back to them. And we thought, wow, we want to do something that's familiar to us. I have two typical children and Caroline. So we thought about college, a college scholarship. When my oldest went to college, we looked for a scholarship that she might could apply for that you would have to have a special needs sister. And we could never find one. So I'm like, I think that's a great idea. So the only way you can apply and qualify is if you have a sibling with a disability. And we know that siblings take the back seat to their special needs brother or sister. It has nothing to do with love. Of course, they adore them. But life is harder and different for families like mine. It can change so quickly. There's so many things that my typical kids would want to do. And I'm like, Caroline can't do that. So we wanted to give back to the very community that rallied behind Caroline's Cart. Their family's dynamic is set up just like mine. And that's what birthed the cause, Caroline's Cause. And we've awarded $95,000 to date.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, it's incredible. Well, just as a follow up to that, how do you see Caroline's Cause continuing to shift the culture around dignity and accessibility around the world?
Well, I mean, it highlights the special needs family. It puts them it puts the spotlight on them. This is hard. What we do is hard. Special needs children are very, very costly to raise and keep in the home. And no, the insurances and the Medicaid does not pay for everything. I've been doing this for 25 years. So I wanted to highlight, spotlight families like mine to say, hey, don't forget us. We do need compassion and resources that might not be out there. We want our communities to support us in every single way.
Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe what you're saying because I think it's important that we continue to support you and the movement that you've started. And I love how you've given back to the community because you're right. Like, even in any family, whether there's special needs or not, there is always going to be some form of maybe sibling taking the back seat to
Right.
another because maybe one's the stellar child in school, the straight A student, and the other one struggles with their grades. So maybe the one who struggles with their grades might be the one that takes a back seat or vice versa. I know for me, for as an example, not that I would ever compare myself to what you go through, but I remember just growing up, I always used to like when my mom would say, why can't you be like your sister? It would always like make me cringe a little bit because I didn't want my brothers to actually feel like they had to be like I was above them in any way. Like
Of
I loved
course.
school, but there was reasons behind why I was so dedicated to school. There was a lot of trauma in my home, and so I just like put all my energy into school. But I feel like, when that happens, that's usually what I was compensating, and I think my mom was trying to to encourage my brothers, but
Right.
I don't know if it was the right wording. But in this instance, with what you're doing, I love the fact that you decided, you know what, I want to find a way to be inclusive, not just of family members, families who have family members who are disabled, but the ones who are not disabled, so that they also grow up healthy and whole. And it's a healthy and whole family dynamic. So I just love that. I
Yes.
just wanted to point that out to you. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. So I have a final question for you. Many women that listen to this podcast are high performers in their own fields, whatever they do. They carry responsibility. They maybe often are leading a large team. And many times they also feel the weight of doing things well, which doesn't really leave a lot of margin for the trial and error and failure. And I know that the reason I'm asking you this is because what you went through without having that background, like I said, it could be very intimidating for just the regular person thinking like, oh my gosh, like, how did you do this? So looking back at your journey, what would you say to a woman who feels maybe she's called to build something meaningful? Maybe she has like that idea like you had for this community, but she has maybe another idea for another community, but doubts whether she has what it takes to do it.
First and foremost, give yourself a lot of grace. Look at me. Read more of my story. I I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. And, I have a degree in business, and I've always heard, you must have a business plan and you have to have all your ducks in a row and you have to blah, blah, blah. I had none of that. I would wake up every day, get my kids fed, schooled, wherever they needed to be, and be like, okay, let's see. How do I do that? I mean, I just would walk around, turn around, be like, okay, Lord, I need another prototype because the first prototype, yeah, I couldn't even sit in it and it cost 28,000. You just, again, I'm figure it out. You don't have to have it all. And again, I think that's sometimes good not to have it all. If I knew everything, if you're trying to do something and you're at point A and you're trying to figure what MN and all that is, it's overwhelming. You don't need that huge picture.
Yeah.
Work on
I
work
think
on
we,
point one. Work
yeah.
on point one. Other you'll overwhelm yourself, and that is when you will quit.
Yeah, I so agree with you because that's a lot of the time. Like, I believe obviously in having a plan, but sometimes I think, and I found myself doing this and I've learned to pull it back. But you zoom out and look at the entire plan, and there would be opportunities that would come along that maybe fit further down the road, and thinking like, oh, I have to act now. And just
Right,
like, it's like maybe point eight, like maybe I had 10 steps, and steps eight, I did, something showed itself.
right,
I thought I had to act on it. And it'd be like, oh no, what this would do to me is it would disrupt the whole thing. And so I've had
right,
to learn to pull it back. So I love the fact that you were saying that you don't have to have everything all worked out, and being open and vulnerable and saying like, listen, if I'd known everything, I don't know if I could have done it, because
right,
knowing the whole thing, like again, you put it in his hands because he's the one that knows the whole road ahead, and just trusting and saying, listen, I trust you. I'm just going to do step one and then
right,
you'll show me step two. So
right,
I love that.
right.
And I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you spending time with me today, for sharing the heart and soul behind Caroline's Cart and Caroline's Cause. And I just loved hearing how you turned your love for your daughter into courage, persistence, global change. And it's such a powerful reminder that the most meaningful work often begins in the most personal of spaces. And
Right,
what I admire most is that you didn't wait to feel fully qualified. Just blows my mind. You simply decided that dignity and inclusion mattered enough to act. And because you did that, families across the world are now experiencing something as ordinary as grocery shopping in a completely different way. So thank you so very much for showing us what grace under pressure really looks like: steady, faithful, and rooted in love.
well, thank you for having me. I appreciate platforms like this that allow me to tell my story, share my faith, and continue my advocacy. So thank you.
Oh, of course. And to our listeners, if you would like to connect with Joanne directly and learn more about Caroline's Cart and Caroline's Cause, you can find her contact information in the show notes. As you reflect on today's conversation, I want you to leave with this: The idea that keeps tugging at your heart may not be random. The season that stretched you may not have been wasted. And the very thing that feels inconvenient or heavy right now might be preparing you to lead in a way you never expected. You don't have to know everything before you begin. You just have to trust the next step. Grace doesn't rush, it steadies. And when you move from that place, your impact carries weight far beyond what you can see. Thanks for tuning in today. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Hi, this is Jennifer Rizio. Are you ready to create more freedom in your life and your business? Join me and my amazing guest experts on Asked and Answered by Soul, where we discuss life, love, and business and provide you with the answers to those really big questions. Who are you, really? Why are you here? And what does it all mean? Tune in wherever you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to share the magic with a friend.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast. Electricast.